back. You're watching this Young Turks special. We're trend spotting for 2015 and talking about the big ideas to watch out for with Rahul Bhasin of Bearing Private Equity, Dimple Sanghi of Omidyar Network, Rahul Khanna of Tr Capital and PARAG SAXENA of New Silk Route Advisors. Parag, we've been focusing on technology and the kind of innovations that we're going to see there, but when we were discussing 2014, you said that you continue to believe in the old economy type of businesses. Within that space, whether it's infrastructure, real estate, retail, what is it that you're going to be looking at?
If I can veer into something that's old and new and we haven't talked about, is healthcare. And I mean the healthcare service side. Here, this I think could be a huge opportunity for India. We have a tendency to place a very high value on cure. It's obviously very important. But from a policy standpoint, it's much more important to spend money on prevention and create tools for prevention, which the internet lends itself and mobile lend itself to extremely well.
Absolutely, and I believe that is going to be an important part of the new national health policy that this government is working on. Dimple, healthcare services and new ways of addressing India's problems within the healthcare space, a big area of opportunity, you think?
Definitely, healthcare is a very interesting part. We've been watching that space for quite some time, but as of now, at least we are not focusing.
Rahul, healthcare?
As far as wellness is concerned, I think the Swachh Bharat Abhyas is, I think, the best possible thing that's happened. I think people miss one very basic thing that if you look from in the last 250 years and you look at the rise in life expectancy, 90% of life expectancy increase is because of better sanitation and better, cleaner environments, better drainage, cleaner water. It's not because of modern medicine. Modern medicine has actually increased life expectancy only by 10%, and out of that, half of it is antibiotics. In fact, I think one of the biggest issues which has not come up, and I think entrepreneurs can probably solve that problem, is waste disposal of electronic goods, because they leach cadmium, they leach several harmful chemicals if they're not treated and handled properly. And I think not only in India, I think that's actually a global opportunity, and that's a wide open space according to me.
Okay. Other wide open spaces, Rahul, that you would potential for entrepreneurs who are watching this show?
I'm a big believer in big macros as well, right? And if you look back over the last 10 years, where private sector has won is where government has failed.
Yeah.
So they failed us in telecom, they failed us in media, and things like that. And I think if you look at sectors like healthcare, education, agri, these are all 10-15-year bets. Generally though, venture capital tends to stay away from old world. It tends to stay away from asset heavy. When we started investing in India back in 2005, we found that we were doing a lot of education while we were trying to put money to work. Fast forward 10 years later, most entrepreneurs are coming in fully schooled around.
What's changed, do you think? What's brought about that change?
So I think obviously there's been a first generation of entrepreneur who's kind of graduated on, they've created some wealth, they're sharing a lot of that knowledge.
Yeah.
Obviously the internet has made the world flat. So, there's been a tremendous amount of information access that's been made available. There's some great organizations like TIE and other folks that do a lot of education at the grassroots level. There's been a tremendous amount of ecosystem development in the last 10 years, whether it's accelerators, incubators, angel funds, seed funds. And so that information arbitrage is really gone now.
What's the next big disruption or disruptor that you're going to be watching out for in 2015?
Well, innovative lending business models, definitely. I think that would be a big, and part of the digitalization process as well. I mean, I never knew till we invested in Neo Growth that merchant cash advance was the way to go. There was another company that we've invested in, Vartana, which does school financing. It has a lot of issues in terms of financing schools, which traditional banks do not do or the NBFCs don't do. But they've come up with an innovative model in which they are unlocking the capital which is locked over there.
Rahul started by saying that innovation of the business model is what Indian companies are going to drive, not necessarily R&D in that sense. You talked about hybrids, and we've seen that across different sectors and different industries. What other kinds of disruptive business models are you seeing the genesis of, which you would be excited about in 2015?
It's right. We don't always need to build a better mousetrap. In some cases, it's just an interpretation of the mousetrap. In other cases, we're seeing ground-up solutions given different regulatory constraints, given different data information that's available. So, we're definitely seeing a lot of buzz around big data, and I think the application of that to different services. We'd invested previously in a mobile advertising business, which is capturing, it now has a petabyte of data in it about people, what they're doing on their phone. And I think you start to see
that that's where we're possibly also likely to see at least an IPO, if not in 2015, over
definitely.
the next,
I think there are the music nerds of the world that have already gotten there. There's a few other very interesting companies, that are starting to get to scale. But clearly, the data assets, different from the transaction assets, are going to be independently valuable. And I think we give counsel to a lot of our portfolio companies around saying, build the information assets, because those may actually have significant long-term value, which may not be captured on a P&L today.
PARAG, SAXENA, we were talking about some of the Indian opportunities, but any takeaways from what we're seeing happen in the Valley, for instance, that we may perhaps take lessons from for India in 2015?
I think that some of the infrastructure needs, getting to the boring part that's driven by the exciting develops in the Valley, shouldn't be underestimated. We give out spectrum in slugs of 10 megahertz.
Yeah.
That's nothing whatsoever. So unless we really expand doing that, or we lay cable, we're going to limit ourselves. So just as we have potholed roads, we're going to have a potholed internet.
The CEO of Vodafone India said that everywhere he goes, people ask him, why are you talking about spectrum in India? And spectrum seems to be the issue in India, and it isn't anywhere else in the world at this point in time.
Right. But you have the balance in countries where either you have wide swaths of spectrum, or you have existing DSL or cable. Right? We have very little ability to have DSL. We have 40 million telephones, landline telephones in all of India. So DSL is limited. We don't have that many homes passed by cable. Very little is there for digital cable in particular. And so we're going to be constantly limited in that. So I think the backbone is crucial. Content, of course, is why people go there. And we've talked a lot about content and applications. But without the infrastructure in place, we're going to have a challenge. So there's going to be opportunities on both those.
Okay, let me get wrap-up comments from each of you. Rahul, let me start by asking you, 2014, we certainly saw things picking up as far as this space is concerned, both in terms of VC funding and private equity. Do you believe, given the fact that we expect the economy to do a lot better in 2015 in comparison to 2014, it's going to be a significantly better year for PE and VC?
So do I expect it to be significantly better this year from last year? The answer is no. I expect some amount of improvement, but I always measure things not on the basis of what is, but what can be or should be. And I think that at our stage of growth as an economy, we should be growing at 14% a year. Not at 8%, not at 9%.
We'll be lucky if we get back to 8% anytime soon.
But you have to step back and say, what was Japan growing at this stage of growth? 15% a year? And they did that for 2 decades. What was South Korea doing? What was Taiwan doing? What did China do? What did Singapore do? I mean, there's example after example. So I think the question we should be asking ourselves is that why aren't we doing that? And what policies were they following which allowed them to do that versus what we have been stuck in?
So Dimple, whether it's Make in India, Make for India, Swachh Bharat, Digital India, GST, all of that stuff, the good stuff that the government is talking about, do you believe that 2015 is going to be a much better year as far as the Indian startup scene is concerned?
It'll definitely be better, barring of course any surprises from the global front,
factors,
which we are not in control of. But if the trends that we are seeing right now in terms of GDP, inflation, in terms of currency stabilization, in terms of all these the entrepreneurship, the liquidity, and everything which is just coming in, which we believe that will continue for at least the next 6-8 months, we believe it will be a better year. Significant or no, I think time will tell.
It will be a better year, but what's the big challenge that you anticipate?
Sure, we're coming off of a bumper year of inflows of capital, especially on the venture side, and I think there is clearly a backlog of exits, and so 2015 will have to be a year of giving money back to LPs. I think many entrepreneurs are sensing that, and you're seeing a little bit of inflation of rounds because I think entrepreneurs are sensing that, money is available, we should take it now, because things may slow down for a little bit. But really, I think 2015 will be about giving some money back to LPs, giving some money back to investors, so exits are important.
PARAG SAXENA 2015 likely to be the year of exits?
Shereen, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think we're going to have a record year in 2015.
Record year?
In terms of a record year, I think it's going to be bigger than any year significantly. I think it'll have a delayed start because misguidedly, I think the government wants to do everything in a bumper crop at the budget, where actually they should be releasing policy on a continuous basis. But I think that the intentions will be translated into reality. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be a massive year for exits. It's going to be a massive year, therefore, for money coming back into the system.
All right, a record year is what PARAG SAXENA is hoping 2015 will turn out to be. On that optimistic note, Rahul, Bhasin, Dimple and Rahul Khanna, thanks very much for joining us here as we do some trend spotting for the year ahead. We'll be back again next week on Young Turks from the entire team. Goodbye and many thanks for watching.